Hey, ladies.
Hi there.
Hey,
Hello.
Carrie, did you go? You said you went to Pride, the Pride Parade? She did say that, right?
She
Yeah.
did. Don't know where she went.
I was like,
Excuse
we should
there.
start talking about
Sorry,
that.
I'm
There you
back.
are.
I couldn't figure out how to find my phone on this. I forget it. Yes, I went to Pride.
We're so tech savvy, us Gen Xers.
Yeah. I flipped up to check a text that had come in, and I was like, how do I get back?
You pulled a geriatric.
Yeah, totally. And it was like a complete brain fart.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
that's
I
so
went to
funny.
Pride. It was, it's been a long time since I've been at Pride as a spectator. I've marched in it when I worked for Frankel, and it is so corporate. I was there for 2 hours, and there was probably like another hour and a half of the parade when I left. And by the time I left, we had not seen any local thing. It was all corporations.
Whoa.
Toyota. I mean, name a corporation, and it was there. So it was kind of a letdown in that respect. In that from when I would watch Pride a million years ago, it was always like local groups and like Dykes on Bikes and the drag queens and all the fun stuff. But this is just all corporate, so it was a little disappointing. But
You can come up and go to Pride here with me. It's still very not corporate.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah.
My kid will be marching for the second year, and once again, I guarantee that I will not be able to find them because they think they're going to march with one group, but then they see friends in another group and they march with that group. And it's like, dude, like I appreciate that you're here, but like I've already seen 73 people that I know from work and from like soccer leagues and everything else, and I was really kind of hoping to see you in the parade, but
Right.
Parenting in the 2020s.
He just has to send a text. It's not that hard these days. Be like, hey mom, change groups. I'm with this group. Done.
Yeah.
Then you know where to look.
You're like, no,
listen,
they don't do that.
It is literally the biggest, most exciting day for a budding queer 15-year-old. So it's like, it's not really about mom. It's not really about mom.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, you do you, kid.
Going,
you have your best possible time. I'll stay out of the way.
I think that's great. I can't even imagine. Like, I was excited to go to a gay parade when I was 22. So I can't even imagine it. 15. Yeah. That's pretty cool. Good for you. Good momming.
Thanks.
So, all right. Good. This is a good start to Pride Month. I know that I asked you guys if you would be interested in sharing an interesting LGBTQ fact this evening. I got to keep all my letters straight. I think there's another one, but I'm sticking with that for right now. Who wants to go first? If you didn't find one, that's cool. It was a very short time frame.
I found a fact. I don't know if it categorizes as fun.
Oh, it doesn't have to be fun. It can be really sad.
Well, it's not sad. I didn't find it. I didn't go for a sad one. It's just very factual.
Okay.
Which is that Illinois became the first state to decriminalize homosexuality by repealing their sodomy laws in 1961.
Good for them.
Wow.
That is
Who knew?
Wow.
Yeah. That's impressive.
Go Illinois. Go Midwest. We're not all bad.
All right. Who's next?
I just Googled something and I'm looking up.
Okay. Megan.
I'm all about procrastinating. Well, it's been a crazy day. Anyway.
Well,
I do have an interesting fact, if I'm allowed to say.
Yes, go.
All right. The mother of Pride, quote unquote, was a bisexual woman.
Okay, great.
Brenda Howard.
Oh, I thought you were done.
Yeah.
That's a very short fact.
I got more. This is from the Pride website. So
okay.
It's true.
I believe you.
She was a bisexual woman and lifelong militant activist, was known as the Mother of Pride for her work in organizing the Christopher Street Liberation Day March. She's also credited with laying the foundation for the week-long celebrations of Pride leading up the modern-day Pride parades. She also co-founded the New York Bisexual Network in 1988. So there you go.
I wanted to say something very inappropriate, so I won't.
Shocking.
Really?
All right, Megan.
I am short on actual facts and just long on life experience on this one.
Okay.
So perhaps we'll save that for a latter portion of the program.
All right. Okay. You can just sprinkle it in when you feel like it.
Yeah.
Carrie, do you have any, or do you want to do the same?
Any facts? Yeah, I mean, I guess I can think of lots of facts. So let's see, what is an interesting one? Well, I mean, I talked about it a little bit before, but Stonewall was really the first Pride, and it was a political protest, and it eventually became what we know as Pride today. But I think we're losing a little sight of the political aspect of Pride, and that we still have a lot of work to do in rights, and so we should focus on that maybe a little bit more than like Walmart.
Hell yeah.
That's my.
I know. I don't want to. I mean, I know we only have a certain amount of time, and I'm flying out somewhere tomorrow, so I don't want to get off track. But I definitely want to come back to the trans kids and all that shit, maybe in another episode. All right.
Do you want one more fact?
Well, and I have one too. So yes, please. I don't have as long of a thing. I didn't write a long thing today.
Gilbert Baker, he designed the rainbow pride flag in 1978 for the San Francisco Pride event, which at the time was called the Gay Freedom Celebration. So go Gilbert.
Oh,
he sewed it by hand, just like Betsy Ross did.
Yeah,
I think I had that fun fact as well. And every color of the rainbow flag means something.
I wish we could call it the Gay Liberation Parade again.
I love that. Okay,
yeah.
Lisa, you get one more, and then I get to go.
This one, I just came by one that was really funny. But it's just like, okay, the first Dyke March wasn't until 1993. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but I'd never heard of a Dyke March before. And I understand the psychology of calling it that, like taking a slur and making it your own. So it said, well, the U.S. Pride event can be traced back to 1970. The first Dyke March didn't happen for 23 more years. And Dyke Marches, which usually happen on the eve of Pride parades, were first organized by the radical activist group, the Lesbian Avengers.
Oh,
that's a good name.
All right. I'm getting my mullet out.
Dyke marches have kind of fallen out of favor in recent years because there are, unfortunately, any number of lesbians who are referred to as TERFs, trans exclusionary radical feminists, and they essentially will not recognize transgender women. And so
wow, what
within
assholes.
Probably like the last 10 years, you really don't see them very much. So yeah, I mean, my sisters who are hating on trans people need to cut it out. It's not cool.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Wait.
The young ones hate that stuff. Whew. Very, very, very up against that particular acronym.
Okay, Lisa, you can go, and then I'm starting.
Okay, just one. This comedian, I can't remember the show I was watching on Prime last night. The chick that was on Mrs. Maisel, not the lead, but the support actor. She,
short lady.
Yeah, she does her own comedy show. She's really funny. But she had this line is something like how, trans women have gone through so much to become a woman. They deserve the same respect as women do. So just I thought of that when Carrie was saying what she was saying. So there you go.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Carrie. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just worried. I'm like worried about time because I know I have to get up early and I haven't packed.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I go for it. Teach us.
All right.
Learn us. I'm
going to learn you. The first thing I'm going to learn you is my little bit of trivia. I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts. I've told you guys about it before, Betwixt the Sheets. And there was a female poet that lived back in the Greek times, in the Greek Empire. And her name was Sappho of Lesbos. And she played the lyre, and legend has it that she invented the guitar pick so she could keep her fingers available for lovemaking with women.
That's brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to go. They have a huge lesbian party every year on the Greek island of Sappho, and it sounds like a lot of effing fun.
Yeah. Well, Sappho of Lesbos. It's like its real name. I was like, that's awesome.
I know. It's like, is that really existed?
It
really
did.
does.
It really.
It
The
really
first time I
did.
heard
I
that,
think
I
it
was
still
kind of
exists.
shocked.
I
Carrie?
think
What'd
there's
you-
still a part of like Greece or Crete or something like that that's either called Sappho or Lesbos.
I love it.
Lesbos is an island. It definitely still exists.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
thank you. Yeah.
All right, excellent. Well, we've definitely gotten a good start. My topic today is like sex and gender. And I'm going to put the disclaimer out there now. I don't even believe I have to say this. I am not a scientist. And if you've listened to any of the episodes where I've tried to pronounce like a Latin-based word, you'll know that. You'll absolutely know that. And I'm just pointing this out because I really might mangle some facts. And then sometimes I make up my own facts, which are actually fiction. And, it's really just to improve the story. I try to let you know that it's not real. Usually it's so absurd, you can figure it out. And then my fellow panelists, they set me straight all the time. So I just want to put it out there so no one tries to use this podcast as a reference for a school paper. That would be a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. So, okay. So we're going to get started. We're going to go back to the beginning. How far back do you think we're going to go?
Eve.
Dinosaurs.
Yes,
Yes.
Adam and
Apple.
Eve, you got it. So first we had Adam and Eve, right? They were the first fucking people. And God didn't have enough raw material. I mean, he was able to make Adam. They didn't have enough raw material to make Eve. So he had to take one of Adam's ribs out and make her out of that. And then that does actually kind of make me think, like, if that really did happen, like, why don't men have an uneven number of ribs? Right?
When I was a kid, I thought, oh, then men have less ribs than women. That's not true, but that's what I thought when I first heard the story.
Well,
That
he
makes
was
sense.
already made. And then, you know what I mean? He was made and then he took the rib out, right?
I'm pretty sure the
Yeah.
Bible and science, they just don't dovetail very well.
They don't.
Well, no,
You're hurting my heart. You're hurting my heart.
no.
Okay. So anyway, but honestly, that was really the way it was for millennia. Like people like people really did think women were just an extension of men and that we didn't have a sex. Like we weren't officially a sex until the 1900s when we were finally considered to actually be our own thing. We were still we were insipid and we were excitable and we were incapable of taking care of ourselves, but we were our own sex. So yay.
Prone to hysteria.
Prone to hysteria. That's right. So then fast forward just a little bit. In 1905, there were a couple of scientists that figured out that male insects have XY chromosomes and females have XX chromosomes to determine sex. So, but they kind of stopped there. They kind of stopped their science there, which was unfortunate because it's actually a lot more complicated than that. So once I started researching, I did want to say one of the things that I noticed when I started researching this is I was like, how do chromosomes? So apparently we've got this gene, this SRY gene, and it rolls itself over the XY or the XX chromosomes and it cracks them open. And then the testosterone oozes out on the XY, the XY chromosomes, and it triggers making a dude. And then, for the women, it's the secretes for the XX combo, so you get your estrogen. So that's how it happens. That's what chromosomes are. And that's kind of the start. The only problem is that sometimes the chromosomes are wonky. And I'm actually going to put a pin in it. And we're going to come back to that in just a second. Any questions?
Nope.
No questions? Okay. Kathy, there's something in here I think you're going to really like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
The
not yet.
Latin word.
No, I mean, it is a hard word for me to pronounce, but I can do it. I don't think it's Latin. Anyway, that's not what it was. So, okay, we're going to start talking about the sex determination system in the animal kingdom, which is really wild. And so as I was reading about it, I started thinking about Jurassic Park. And I always thought that Jeff Goldblum's, I guess his line was life wants to live. But then I looked it up and I was like, no, that's not it at all. It's life finds a way. Life finds a way. Yeah. I don't know what I was thinking. So anyway, I looked it up and I figured out life
Life does want to find a way.
It does want to find a way. Life finds a way is actually a much clearer message than what I had. Life wants to live. So I'm like, okay, we'll go with life. We'll go with what he has to say. So we've got some animals and we've got some insects that they do like really weird sex things. They can change their sex. The scientific name for when an animal can change its sex is sequential hermaphroditism. And this is different than being like a plain old hermaphrodite. There are a few different ways that a sex change can happen in nature. And when we've got a sequential hermaphroditism, which is when an animal changes from male to female or female to male. And like an example of this is the California sheephead, and they're all born male. They all like hang out and they're busy being males. And then, or actually, I lied. They're born female because I knew this. I was like, this is weird. That's not what was supposed to happen. They are all born female and they hang out. They're busy being females for about between 4 and 6 years. And then like all of a sudden they get really, really big. And then like their ovaries, they just degenerate. They just go away and they become boys and they start making sperm. That's so wild.
That's
so
weird.
Isn't that crazy?
It is wild.
That's
Yeah.
definitely wild.
It is. And confusing, I'm sure.
Definitely for me. I was like, weren't you a girl? I could swear you were a girl yesterday. So yeah, so that is sequential hermaphroditism. So then we have environmental sex determinism, which is probably some of you have heard of it. It is when the atmosphere affects an animal while it's incubating. So I have actually heard of it before, and that I thought like it was with turtles, and I thought that maybe some turtles were affected this way, but actually I think it's all, and I think it's all turtles, alligators, and crocodiles are really highly affected by temperature. So if a turtle's eggs are developing at under 82 degrees Fahrenheit, they're going to be boys. So Megan, you must have had turtles.
Yeah, perhaps.
She's got 3 boys.
Not exactly, but close. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. See, this is just very on topic.
I know, very on topic. All right. So 82 degrees Fahrenheit, you're going to have a boy. If the temperature is above 89, you're going to have a girl. And if the temperature fluctuates, you'll have boys and girls. So that is environmental sex determinism. I don't know. Have you guys heard of that?
No.
No. All right. And then I was one of the animals that came up. Well, it wasn't an animal, it was an insect that came up when I was looking at the sequential hermaphroditism. It was this Mormon fritillary butterfly. And I was like, it would be nice to be able to talk about like something pretty, because like fish, just not very pretty. So, but I looked at it and I couldn't find anything about them. And I was like, oh, this sucks. So then I searched hermaphrodite butterfly. I can't even imagine what my
your algorithms must be all
exactly. So I looked them up and I found this marvelous phenomena in my science research. And have you guys ever heard of gynodromorphs? I know I didn't say.
No.
Okay, I'm gonna spell it out. I'm gonna spell it out for you. GYNANDROMORF. No, wait, RPH. Did you get it?
Yeah, I haven't heard of that before.
Oh no, I meant for you to like type it in.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Okay, I'll say it again. Okay. So GYNANDROMORPH.
All right.
Okay,
I'm on it.
all right. I'll go ahead and start talking about it because you guys can do your search. So anyway, is actually insects and birds can do, and actually in crustaceans too, are can basically be half male and half female. And I was just like, this is amazing. And so like you can see these butterflies that are like on one side look entirely different than the other
They're
side.
like 50-50.
Yeah. Isn't that wild? See, I told you you'd love it. So, okay. So we don't know how they come about, but for birds, this is the theory, I think, is that for birds, the most likely explanation is that females they'll make like an unusual double nucleus egg cell. And one of them will have the Z chromosome, and then one will have the W chromosome. They have different chromosomes than us. And then each is fertilized by the Z sperm. And then you end up having like this one chick that is half male and half female. And so it can happens in butterflies, crustaceans, spiders, ticks. I don't know how you can tell a tick is like half and half, but I guess I can. And dragonflies.
Half chicken.
Yes.
Half chicken.
Yes, the half and half chicken. It's pretty wild.
My gosh. That is nuts.
Yeah. So,
Is that a real thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
I spelled it out twice.
She spelled
put
out
a
twice.
picture
You
of
gotta look
that.
at these pictures. The
Picture
half
of
and
that
half
on the
cardinal.
website.
So anyway, I just thought that was so cool. I was like, I'm going to add that in there, even though it wasn't really
Weird
about.
that they're split like right down the center.
I
Like the
know.
center axis.
I know. And they're like, but some of them are splotchy too. Like some of them aren't.
This
split.
cardinal is half and half.
Ooh.
It is. It's half red, half. What's the other color? Beige. White.
Right.
Well, that doesn't make sense though, because a female cardinal is gray.
Well, it's kind of maybe it's a bright picture. It's kind of gray and grayish white.
Yeah.
Lisa's reached that part of middle age where she knows what color birds are.
I see cardinals around my house all the time.
That's not a cardinal though. That's not a
That
cardinal.
is
That
not
was
a
not a
cardinal?
cardinal.
Right.
It's too fluffy in the middle.
I
I
also
thought it
feel
was
like
just-
this is how like they started thinking that their women were witches. It's like you see a bird like that in a tree and you don't understand anything about science. Clearly you think something is up. Somebody
It's
has
a
done
north-
something.
It's a northern cardinal. It's a half and half.
Oh, it's a Yankee Cardinal.
It is
Liberal.
actually in this
Swiss
article.
Cardinal.
In the article, they were talking in Erie, Pennsylvania. They had one of these, and it was like a huge sensation. So
It is pretty cool.
it is pretty cool. So I'm glad I did. I mean, I was sad not to find the hermaphrodite butterfly, but it's all right. I got this other thing instead. All right. So where am I? Okay. So we are moving on. So now, basically, now you guys have seen the weird things that nature does. And I left a lot out.
Yeah.
And so now, but we've seen how ways like that anatomical sexuality will express itself in nature. And so I'm going to bring our discussion back around to some of the weird shit we've got going on with us. And so we know, we'll go to circle back. Boys are XY and girls are XX chromosomes. We know how they crack open. And the problem is that sometimes that shit just doesn't work right. When they're in utero, sometimes people's chromosomes, they just get funky. And people with wonky genitalia, they have this disorder. It's called disorder of sex development. And they call it DSD for short. And these folks are called intersex. This actually took me a while, but I was like, I had to get into the research, and I learned that like the intersex was just another name for hermaphrodite. I was like, oh, that's like the new name for hermaphrodite. So, and they were also called, this sounds terrible, congenital eunuchs.
Whoa.
That doesn't sound good.
I would reject
That's
that.
A lot of emotional
Yeah.
baggage to put in one
That's
name.
terrible.
That's a
It
bad
is
name.
terrible. Like if you put that in front of your marketing people, they'd be like, "What? Get rid of that! Like
No.
we can't name that."
Hard no.
no
These
congenital,
scientists.
congenital eunuchs. All right, so I found this description for hermaphroditism. Hermaphroditism, also referred to as intersex, is a condition in which there is a discrepancy between the external and internal sexual and genital organs. It is grouped together with other conditions as a disorder, DSD, that I was talking about. So as you can probably imagine, these people have been around for a while. So we've never really just been man and, male and female. Like we've always had intersex folks. I did a little bit of digging into history on Wikipedia, and there was the first mention of it is hermaphrodites was a myth. I don't know where the name came from. A mythological character in ancient Greece who was born with a physical body, which is a combination of that of a man and a woman. And it possessed supernatural properties, did not go into the supernatural properties. I personally think that it could bounce really high up in the air. That's kind of my thought, but I don't know.
That seems super useful.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, what do you think that, like, if you're a hermaphrodite, what would be your superpower?
Well, I mean, you could have sex with anybody would be one superpower.
Yeah.
That's true. And that's a real one.
Like, that's kind of a big one.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to take away the whole jumping up in the air. That was just off the top of my head. Not very good. Sex with lots of people, male and female. You could be a really good concubine. Kind of person. So anyway, all right. I got distracted. So they've got some supernatural properties. Now, I don't think I'm going to say this right, but I feel like it's Bill and Ted's Adventure. That makes
Excellent Adventure.
Excellent Adventure, where they did Socrates and they kept calling Socrates Socrates. So I've got like Hippocrates. I'm going to just say, anyway, that's the dude. And he was also Greek, and he viewed sex as a spectrum. He actually viewed it as a spectrum between men and women with many shades in the middle, including hermaphrodites, which were the perfect balance between male and female. And Roman law recognized men, women, and hermaphrodites. So this really, like, to me, kind of begs the question of like, who the fuck thought they're just men and women? Like, where did that come from?
Jesus-y people. Sorry. That's just my guess.
I think we have to go with the Christians on this one.
Sorry.
Yeah, man. Those Christians, such a hassle. So anyway, they've been around for as long as we've been around. And they make up roughly 1% of the population. So basically, like, what happens is when the babies are developing in the womb, they're like little bitty errors that happen in their sexual differentiation. And so these little errors are what cause their genitals to grow in all kinds of funny ways. I feel very sorry for people with this. So I have a few different diseases for you guys. There's this congenital adrenal hypersplasia, CAH, happens in 1 out of every 13,000 babies. If the female doesn't secrete an enzyme that allows them to produce something called androgen, she will be born with an ambiguous external genitals. Usually they have an oversized clitoris and a fused labia. I didn't look up any pictures for this, you guys. You are welcome to. I don't know.
Probably for the best.
Yeah.
And then the same thing happens to boys at the same rate. So 1 in 13,000 boys are born with genitalia that look female. And way back in the day, like you couldn't tell. Like you couldn't tell that they had, you could just see their female genitalia. You couldn't see inside and recognize that they're boys. So I will say,
so they would look like a girl on the outside, but there'd be no uterus and ovaries and stuff, right?
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. They were missing some of the junk on the inside.
So I don't know if you know this, but so as they got to like puberty, so they're grown up as a girl, being dressed as a girl, recognized as a girl, but then once you go through puberty, would they then get the big, like, Adam's apple, deep voice, hair on the face, all that stuff?
It kind of depends. You know, I mean, like I know that doesn't part of it. Sometimes the doctors don't know until much later in life. Like it doesn't present itself until later. So I don't know enough.
Okay.
Sorry.
Interesting.
I did figure out that what androgens were, because I was reading about them all day. I was like, I wonder what that thing is. So androgens, they're just a group of sex hormones. So, but I like sit here like imagining a bunch of sex hormones hanging out with each other. I mean, like, I think this is the right word. If I'm gonna anthropomorphize them, is that the right word?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Your androgens. So
Mhm.
anyway, they help start puberty, and they play a role in reproductive health and body development. And they are actually really important for these folks, because the next disease I'm going to talk about is called androgen insensitivity syndrome. And it's also 1 in 13,000 babies are born with it. It is very weird. A lot of these, like 1 in 13,000. I'm like, I don't know what that is. So in this case, it appears that a section of the baby's XY chromosome is ignoring the androgen. It's just like, fuck you, androgen. I'm not going to pay any attention to you. And so the kid's born with testes that are in their abdomen while the genitals are female, and they grow breasts, but they don't menstruate. So yeah, sucks. It really sucks. So, and then I have just a couple more. So girls can get a disease called Turner syndrome. And they have, basically what happens is they have 2 X's, but for whatever reason, like one just kind of runs out on them, just kind of slinks away. And then it just leaves this kid with some like really weird innards. So women with Turner syndrome, they're short, their ovaries are just complete failures. And the girls won't go through puberty unless she gets hormone therapy. So I know they do hormone therapy. And so some of these girls are born with a webbed neck and puffy hands and feet. It just sounds terrible.
What's a webbed neck?
I don't know.
It's not like, like when you don't have webbed hands and feet, right? Be like a duck. But your neck is
like
just
there's thin skin in between.
I would think that
their
their chin attach, like there's skin there that attaches to their neck.
Oh,
would be my guess, but I don't really want to Google to find out.
I don't want to
be
Google it.
completely
I don't know
honest.
if I want to do that.
Yeah, I didn't spell it out for you guys.
Poor kids.
Well, and I think it's kind of important to point out also that just it's not just like a physical anomaly a lot of times with gender, right? Because it's a concept. So you can have all the parts being a certain gender and be labeled male easily or female, but just know that that's not you. So that maybe whatever the imbalance is or whatever, but it's not all I guess anatomical.
No, you're right. I didn't, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get into that. But you're right. To me, what this really pointed out was that there's the answers that we have are inadequate. And so if the intersex can happen, then whatever it is that we believe about males and females that are, where it all worked out, where it all worked out naturally, that doesn't mean as much as we think it means.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, all right. Okay. So we had the Turner syndrome, and then there's a kind of the male version of it, which is called Klinefelter. And I don't know. I hope they give these boys hormone therapy, because otherwise they're going to end up being super short. They're going to have a small penis, small testes, and there's something else. Oh, and they could grow boobs. It should be horrible. I mean, you're already up against a lot.
So all of these things have to be recessive genes, right? Because before we dealt with these things and we gave them hormone therapy and we did all these things, I have to think a lot of these people who were born with these disorders did not live to be a ripe old age and reproduce, right? I mean, sounds like a lot of them can't.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think
I think that's probably true. Yeah,
is probably true, but I mean, possibly nothing necessarily life-threatening, that they would just be, I would think, severely underdeveloped one way
I
or
mean,
the
to
other.
me, it's like a quality of life issue. I'm curious whether or not they test for that when you get, depending on the level of genetic testing you have done, whether those are things they look for. Because it seems like you would be able to look at two people and look at their genes and their chromosomes and tell whether or not they were in danger of producing a child with Turner syndrome or Klinefelter.
Well, some of it though is stuff that's happening in the uterus, right? Like things that
Okay.
are like not that are out. I don't know. Like maybe they're not getting quite enough oxygen. That's like I don't know
Gotcha.
if that's true, but you know what I'm saying? There are things.
Yeah, I
that
hear
are
you.
just- Yeah, physical things that are happening.
Gotcha.
Environmental things in the womb that are happening that
Right.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm gonna. Oh, Megan, I heard you breathe. Did you want to say something?
No, I'm just breathing, trying to stay alive. You know how that goes.
I want to be able you guys to answer. I want to like look and hear you guys enough to answer questions. All right. So where was I? I wanted to talk about the one thing that I find most disturbing, and that was in the 1950s. Doctors decided they needed to normalize the genitalia for the kids. And I actually, I was like, I thought that was like one of the upsides about being intersex. It's like, oh, you get to pick your sex for yourself, and not have so much pressure to be a boy or a girl. But the genitalia normalization surgeries, they started in the 1950s, and the guy who started it, his name was Dr. John Money, and he believed that children are psychosexually neutral until they are 2. But only until 2. And then at that point, afterwards, they need to have a stable gender identity. So he really pushed parents to make a decision about whether or not this baby is a boy or a girl. But before they could even, barely talk, And
I hate to interrupt, but you like a minute or two ago, like your sound switched and you got really echoey.
am I echoey now?
Yeah, yes. Anybody else hear that, or is it just me?
Yes, yeah.
Because I kept like adjusting my headphones thinking it was me, but
no.
Yeah, I hear it.
Oh, it's because of my fucking cat. All right.
Oh, poor Sunshine.
No, I mean I love
poor
him, but
kitty, just trying to be close.
okay. Thanks, guys.
Oh, you sound better.
Yeah, you're better now.
Oh, I sound better? Okay, great.
Yes, fixed
Sound good. Sorry.
When
didn't wanna interrupt, but
did I start sounding shitty?
a couple minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I could go back because I don't like it when it gets in the middle and it sounds bad. But I don't know where that was.
No, exactly.
All right. So I'll just start with the surgeries. So yeah, I'm trying to think of where I was.
This man told the parents they had to pick.
Yes. So they believe so the parents had to pick. And of course, this is a terrible thing to do because kids don't understand. But when you're 2, there's really no gender. And we don't know what's going to happen when they hit puberty or anything. So, and the last thing I have to say on this is that I was watching this YouTube video and a woman she's a doctor and she's talking about medical professionals and like how they're kind of measuring their success with this. And, her example is that like, is the vaginal canal big enough rather than, is it pleasurable? Like, is it pleasurable to use, or is it like whatever it is that whatever the experience you would like the person to have, not just its size of it. But I did want to say, and this is horrible, like some of the things that they did was they would conduct a clitorectomy and they would cut out a person's entire clitoris.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Sounds like something out of that TV show / book, Handmaid's Tale.
Say that sounds like East Africa.
Yeah.
West Africa.
Well,
East
part
Africa.
of it is in one, I don't think I brought it up, but there's one where I did. There's one where you have like an abnormally large clitoris. And so one of the things they would shave it down, and they would also bury it under folds of skin. And the girl got excited.
Harder to find.
And it was, well, not only it was painful because it's like pressing up against skin that's not supposed to grow. So anyway, they have put an end to all of that sort of most of the surgeries when they're little, but I think there's still a lot of work to do in terms of like, I think putting off My personal feeling about it is putting off surgeries and stuff until you're really psychologically old enough to understand what you're doing, especially if it's like so permanent, is not a bad idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that is what I had for you guys tonight. Oh, I had a question, a thoughtful question for you guys. You want to think? Not very hard.
Yeah, it's kind of late. I don't know how much I want to do.
Well, just a little. It wasn't.
Go for it. We can do it. We can rally.
Well,
We
it
can
was
make it
just,
happen.
you know, it's like we've known each other a really long time, and I think our understandings of sex and gender identity and all that has changed over the years. So I was just wondering, what is it that you feel like you know now that you didn't know 20 years ago, or something that you feel more strongly about now than you did back then?
Well, that's easy for me. I mean, I feel more comfortable in my own skin and being a lesbian. It takes a long time, especially in this culture. So that's my answer.
I think for me, like 20 years ago, probably a little bit more than 20 years ago, I started working in an industry where I have had so many wonderful queer coworkers of every stripe imaginable. But like growing up, I was not exposed to an awful lot of gay men in my, small town in Maine. In fact, there was one, as I recall. But so like 20 years ago, my understanding particularly of gay men was that, it was like TV. It was like Queer as Folk. It was like, everybody was just dating everybody all the time. And it was, I now have so many younger coworkers who they just want, they're male and they just would love to find another man to settle down so they can adopt kids and, have this whole other life. And it's like, nobody I knew 20 years ago wanted anything to do with any of that. So it's just it's a very interesting progression to see go on around you. And I think, wow, like not only did I not have any idea about it 20 years ago, it's so different now than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Hopefully it's, we're pushing towards better. But yeah, I think people's minds are just much more open to it, and hearts.
Yeah. I think for me, like what I like is just, it's so normal now. Like it's so, like it's normal to see women married or men married, or like it just, I love it. I love that it's just not unusual, if that makes sense. It's in our fabric of our society now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, when you think back to like just TV, Will and Grace came out and it was just like, oh my God, like one of the main characters is gay. This is or two of the main characters are gay. This is just amazing, But yeah, it's definitely, it's a lot just more normal I would say normal, that's a bad word, acceptable by society, I guess, to like, because you just see it everywhere you go. There's a gay couple and it's like, what's the big deal? And that's just, to me, that's the way life is now. And I think it's sad that for some people, they don't like it, that that's so normal, and they just fight harder to look down upon people for being a certain way. It seems like it's, in some ways, it's worse now than maybe even the late 90s, because I think in the late 90s, it was becoming more normal then, and people are becoming much more comfortable with it. And then I feel like now there's just like, there's a big swing the other direction.
I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, well, not in a lot, in some ways, it was easier 20 years ago. But I don't think that we had nearly the understanding of gender that we do today, and acceptance of different expressions of it. We've evolved in that.
Carrie, you're much more involved than I was, but I don't even remember gender even being part of the discussion 20 years ago. It was just more like gay people deserve to have.
It was about sexuality.
Rights.
It was more about sexuality.
Yeah, not about
absolutely.
Gender.
Yeah, and people just have always had a really hard time separating those concepts of,
right,
who you're attracted to is not determinative of who you identify as. So I think people are getting wiser in that, and so it's opened up the conversation, but it's also opened up a lot of the hate too. So yeah, it's a delicate balance. But I really believe that in in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to get back on track. And people are going to realize that all this hate is just not getting us anywhere.
Yeah, I just hope it doesn't have to turn into something violent for people like, oh wait, maybe we went too far.
Hey, ladies.
Yeah.
I
good
love
point.
y'all. I would love to continue this conversation at our next, or whatever. I would love to continue it during Pride Month. So, because
Yes.
this is it's a totally different episode now. I definitely think it's worth. No, but I'm just
You
saying. I
started
think
it.
I know. I put it in the chat that I started it. So, but yeah, I mean, I love it, and I definitely want to talk about it. But I just, it's late. We all gotta
I
go to
know.
bed. So
Yeah, we
anyway,
got to go. Andrea, are you leaving? Are you going somewhere tomorrow?
I am.
Where are you
Going
going
back to
tomorrow?
Buffalo?
No, I'm not going back up to Buffalo. I'm going to Las Vegas
Ooh,
For fun
For
or
work?
work?
for fun, but I will be working. some.
Ooh,
Yeah,
have fun.
yeah.
have a good time.
Thank you. I will. All right, ladies, it's been awesome. Thank you for listening to me talk about science stuff.
All right.
All right.
Love
Bye-bye.
you. Good
Bye.
night.
guys.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.